Hello, AP students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 10, Part 4, Social Cognitive Theory. So, as we go along, make sure you're jotting down what you need. We're going to talk a little bit about the social cognitive theories. And these are basically um, theories that are kind of based a little bit on cognitive psychology in the sense that you have kind of a scientific tradition with emphasis on research. The cognitive approach looks for specific influences on personality and behavior. So we're combining these two things together without assuming to explain anything. And some of the different theorists that come out of this model are Alfred Bandura and Julian Reuter. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Bandura. Bandura was probably known for doing a lot of work in observational learning. And according to his view, we are driven not by inner forces or environmental influences alone, uh, but for the most part by our expectation of how our actions might affect other people, the environment, or ourselves. We learn vicariously by observing others to see what kind of rewards and punishments their behaviors bring. So if you have siblings, you're always kind of watching your older sibling to see what's going to be punished or what's not going to be punished as far as the behavior. Our personalities are shaped by the interactions that we have with others. And this kind of encompasses this whole idea of observational learning. This is the process of learning new responses by watching others' behaviors. If you remember Bandura, he did a little experiment with the Bobo doll, which was an inflatable punching bag, and basically set up an experiment where this punching bag was in a room with little kids filled with toys, and the children were allowed to play. And then eventually an adult walks in and basically is kind of ranting a little bit, punches the Bobo doll and leaves. The children are sent away to have some outdoor time, brought back into this room where the toys were. The toys now removed, with the exception of Bobo. And what they're watching is to see whether or not Bobo will be the punching bag for these children, which it was. So, personality is a collection of learned behavior patterns, um, many of which we have borrowed from others. So, we kind of learn by watching. Through observational learning, people learn by what behavior gets rewarded and what gets punished or ignored. So sometimes a really bad behavior gets rewarded, and it might be rewarded with attention or something of that nature. And sometimes this shows some children that, by acting out, you might get the attention that you desire, and hence that becomes a way to get attention. Um, when we talk about this process, we can kind of talk about this concept of reciprocal determinism. This is the process in which our cognitions, our thoughts, behaviors, and environment mutually influence each other. And if you kind of see the diagram there, you can see how how we think about something, how we behave, how the environment um, interacts with us, all plays off of one another. Julian Reuter, he had a theory about the locus of control. He basically tells us that the way we act depends on our sense of personal power, or hence this idea of a locus of control. And so an individual's sense of where his or her influence originates. There are people that have what we call internal or external locuses of control or dispositions that seem to be reliable personality characteristics, although Roder resisted calling this a trait because he believes that it conveys kind of an erroneous idea of internality and externality. But um, this whole idea that an individual that has an internal locus of control, they feel like they have the ability to control their own destiny, meaning that they have power over their situation that they can control. Whereas a person who has an external locus of control feels like a lot of what's happening in their life is really um, out of their control, meaning others control their destiny. And there's been some research about people who play the lottery or people who have undesirable behaviors like smoking and such, of where their locus of control is. And there's a tendency for people who play the lottery and smoke to have a more external locus of control rather than an internal locus of control. All right. Thank you very much.